Hello, Jamie from Inky and Scrappy, sharing with you today a card process video using Colorado Craft Company's Lovely Legs Shenanigan set. I am taking the main image from the Shenanigan set and stamping it on some close to my heart watercolor paper with VersaFine and VersaMark inks and embossing with clear embossing powder over the top. I will take these images and watercolor them using Brutus Monroe's Aqua Pigments in colors yellow, yellow-green, green, clover, leprechaun, sparkle, I think it's called sparkle blue. It's got a little tint of sparkle to it, and brown. So I'm just going in and watercoloring all four of them at the same time, keeping it fairly simple and straightforward. And I really, really wanted to go outside the lines, and I just couldn't do it. It's just not me. At least not for this image. Maybe for a flower image I could do it, but yep, nope, not for this one. But the most I get is some splattering, and that's about as out of the lines as I go with my watercoloring here. So I kind of like the look of the white one. I didn't know if I was going to love it or not. I mean, I've seen them with flowers and the other stuff, and I thought, oh, they look really pretty that way. And so I thought, I'll give it a go. But in the end, I really do kind of like them. They have a different presence than the black outline. And so it was kind of fun to do something different. And there's something about watercoloring that just, I don't know, it's relaxing. It doesn't take as long as Copic coloring. I don't have to worry about shading and all that other stuff. I mean, I still do a little bit, but not like when I'm Copic coloring. So it was definitely a relaxing experience doing them that way. Plus, I got 4 images done in about as much time as it probably would have taken me to color it with Copics for one image. I am pulling out some Trinity Stamps dies and deciding what I wanted to do for card sizes. I kind of decided I wanted to do a few different sizes, and I'm just taking those and kind of figuring out what's going to work for each one. And these images really do lend well to the mini slim size because they're like perfect on there. You will see in the finished cards. But I also thought it'd be fun to do a regular slimline card and then an A2 size. And the A2 one probably lent me more headaches than anything else. And you know how you just have those days where you probably should have just gone back to bed and not crafted because it ended up just not going the way you had it planned. And yesterday was that day for me. But I got it done in the end. So I went in and added some interest to the background on this one because I just thought it needed something else. I mean, it already had the stripes, but I wanted to tie in the lucky clover or the clovers with this one a little bit more. And so it's a very subtle look, but I do like how it turned out. And I was able to line up that stencil for my second time up. I was able to line it up so that pattern could repeat, and it worked out really well. And so, yes, this was where I'm realizing I probably should have just gone back to bed yesterday morning. We have those days, right? I loved that paper too. It was like one of my favorites from Doodlebug. So this was a mini Doodlebug St. Patrick's Day pad. I think I got last year. So I did have a second half of that plaid sheet, and I did make it work. And at least I got to save the image on that one, so it was all good. So for my A2, I did fussy cut it out. I fussy cut half of it out And I just couldn't figure out how to make it work because it was straight on the one side and it wasn't on the other. And then I ended up fussy cutting it the rest of the way out. And so the background for this one just, I don't know. I couldn't figure out how I wanted to do it. So I went with some VersaMark re-inker and I went through that stencil and I tried doing that with some gold embossing powder, which I really love the look of this. It's really cool. And I'll make a card with it at some point in time, but yesterday just was not the day. Because it just, I think it was because that white background or the white image, the white back outline to the image kind of got lost on that busy background. And so I ended up going in and just taking the colors that I'd used to paint the image and splattered a plain white background. I even tried to do some watercolor smushing because I wanted to see what was going to look best. And I did end up using the splattered background. It's kind of my go-to when I have an image that I want to keep front and center, but I need some interest in the background. It lends well to that. And the power went out. So I ended up skipping the sentiments on the front because I wanted to do some embossing. And I finished up all 4 of my card insides. So I'm just figuring out which ones to do where. And the mini slims say, let the shenanigans begin. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm trying to think what I put in the A2 one. I did the may you have warm words on a cold night, a full moon on a dark night, and the road downhill all the way to your door. It's an old Irish blessing. And then the big one was from Riley and Company, and it was also an Irish proverb or blessing. And so I did end up adding in a little bit of brown on the bottom there to give it some grounding. And so, you know how that acetate piece, I'm telling you, this card was more headaches than it was probably worth. But so that piece of acetate that comes with stamps that you can never find when you're putting your stamps away, somehow it ended up on top of that piece of paper in my MISTI. And so when I went to pick up, it was actually on top of the stamp. So I went to pick it up, it didn't pick it up, and the stamp fell. And there was like this little light fine gray Happy St. Patty's Day. Not all of it, just part of it. And I was able to get it off with the sand eraser. But yeah, that card was just like not having anything yesterday. So now I'm just going in and finishing up my card fronts here. Queen of Shenanigans for this one. I'm a wee bit Irish for this one. And this one I didn't do an emboss on this one. I just did the VersaFine ink. And then this one I had cut out to go in that glitter cardstock. And I decided I usually just cut my stamps apart. It doesn't bug me. But this time I just decided figuring I probably wasn't having the greatest day when it came to stamping stuff, and cutting my stamps apart was like, yeah, not happening. So I did just mask it off and go that way. And then I was super careful. I scrubbed it good, but I was super careful and still masked it off when I laid it down because I was not risking it. And my sentiment isn't on there in the center perfectly, but I will fix that with some bling. You really can't notice it at all. So I'm just adding the cards to the bases here. Some of them I will do liquid glue, setting them under some acrylic blocks. Isn't that pretty? It's so soft and subtle. I think that's why I like that white. And then this one here, I am popping up that image because I really do want that image to be the focal point of the card. And I do love how this one ended up turning out. It's simple, but I don't know. It's just pretty. And so when I said this one was like my struggle bus yesterday, this one was my struggle bus. I could not put it on there for the life of me. And my thumb was bugging me. Since I fussy cut that out, I've realized I can't do that. At least not yet. Maybe in a couple of weeks. And here I am putting on that last one. I cut this one out with a Trinity stamp slimline die, and it wasn't exactly 3.5 by 8.5. And so I ended up going and trimming that off in the trimmer before I ended up putting that raised up piece on it, because I don't know, having the layers in the trimmer just don't always work the greatest for me. So I am using Trinity Stamps Gold Rush Confetti Mix and Lucky Clover Embellishment Mix for most of these, and then just adding some bling in there. I try to go in odd numbers and groups of 3s and triangles, at least visually. That's what's appealing to me. I don't know. That's kind of how I roll with all of my embellishment bling. And I always try to go less, but I always end up doing more. So don't ask. I don't really have a rhyme or a reason besides the visual triangles and keeping it odd. And this one I was thinking about doing the gold, but the gold that my Happy St. Patrick's Day isn't the same shade of, like, isn't the same tone of gold. It's a little bit darker. So I ended up going in with the Nouveau Gold Coast glitter drops, and then I smack it on my edge of the table to flatten them out a little bit so they're not quite so raised. And it takes out any peaks. And there are the rest of the cards. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and have a good day. Keep getting inky.